Tournez-vous contre le mur, les mains derrière la tête, Madame Devane.
Vous ne travaillez pas sur vos mémoires? Pas d'inspiration. D'ailleurs, votre code est très astucieux.
J'essaie de déduire où je suis et comment vous avez réussi à me mener ici. Même si je suis c'est que vous avez déjà réussi à comprendre cela, code ou pas de code, je me demande juste pourquoi vous laissez garder le cahier.
Je comprends que ça doit être assez ennuyeux d'être retenu captive comme ça. J'admire à quel point vous êtes capable de rester occupé dans ces circonstances. Bon appétit.
Let's pause for a moment and dive into this intriguing question. Could her reflection be the key to a twin swap? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What's your take?
Is this a game of shadows or a death sentence for Anna? Today, we're diving deep into the return of GH's greatest villain.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you thought daytime television was, even remotely grounded in reality, you clearly missed the entire high-octane absurdity of the soap opera era.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking roughly the 1980s through the 2000s.
And it seems like the writer's room motto was just, if it can be written, it must be put on television. Immediately.
It was an era fueled by sheer chaos and commitment. Our sources catalog storylines that just spanned this truly outrageous spectrum.
I mean,
we're talking the undead, actual demons, extraterrestrial visitors, clones, people coming back from the dead, but not just dead, frozen dead. It was a dizzying experience for viewers who stuck with it.
Absolutely dizzying. I mean, we've got the canonical example, Days of Our Lives. You have the heroine, Marlena Evans, possessed by the literal devil in 1995. And just when you thought that was peak fantasy,
They did it again.
they brought the whole thing back in 2021. And this time they infected her twin grandkids. That's commitment to absurdity.
Or take the end of One Life to Live. It capped off his entire run with this surreal twist.
The dog.
A talking dog named David Vickers who tells a toddler who his real father is. I mean, the logistics of that alone.
Forget the talking dog part for a second.
Exactly. And it happened in the final days of the show. It proves they were just swinging for the fences right until the very last episode.
And of course, the vampire phenomenon. General Hospital's primetime spin-off, Port Charles, ran a full, successful vampire arc with the character Caleb Morley.
And that arc was so popular, they recycled the character years later into the main General Hospital show, kidnapping Sam McCall because she looked exactly like Caleb's late vampiric wife, Livy.
Which, these examples, they just show the landscape, right? When we talk about these shows, we're not talking about simple love triangles anymore.
Not at all. We are talking about mythology building, often through the lens of pure science fiction or fantasy.
And that leads us to our focus today. We are zeroing in on one specific, highly pivotal piece of soap mythology that, despite its utter bizarreness, remains structurally foundational for General Hospital.
We're talking about the 1990 Alien storyline.
It's infamous and famous as the Crystalline Conspiracy.
Right. And our mission today is to trace the complete 35-year ripple effect of this bizarre arc. We need to figure out how this story, which was often mocked by critics at the time,
Oh, for sure.
is still threatening the characters of Port Charles today, specifically via a mysterious book that shares the conspiracy's name.
And the big question we're exploring, the real insight we're hunting for, is how an alien, a being from a star named Lumina, who arrived seeking nothing more than a lost crystal.
Yeah.
How did he manage to unintentionally create some of the show's most enduring and profoundly human conflicts, especially its key villains?
Well, let's start with the vital context, because this alien wasn't just dropped into a vacuum. Before this close encounter, General Hospital had already spent years establishing its narrative cred as an action-adventure soap, not just a hospital drama.
Exactly. They were prepped for a global conspiracy. They just needed to shift the location from, the Middle East to outer space. The entire 1980s were spent defining the high-stakes world of super spies.
We're talking about characters like Robert Scorpio and Anna Devane. They weren't just doctors or detectives. They were constantly battling organizations like the WSB.
The World Security Bureau, which was basically the soap opera version of the CIA or MI6.
And their constant terrifying rivals, the DVX. They were perpetually hunting for these high-tech MacGuffins.
Like the Prometheus disc, which is one of the big long-running plot drivers of the era. So for listeners who don't know, this was essentially a fictional piece of tech that contained world-ending secrets.
Precisely. So the show's reality was already stretched to accommodate advanced weaponry, international crime syndicates, and globe-trotting espionage. The foundation for complex, high-stakes plots was absolutely set.
They just needed to take one giant logical leap into the franchise.
Right.
Wait, so if I'm tracking this correctly, the writers had established a world where global security was constantly under threat.
Right.
But the timing of the aliens' arrival also had this massive emotional payoff. Didn't that feel incredibly jarring to the audience?
Well, that's the genius of the timing, according to our sources. Just days before the alien arrived, the show went through a defining tragedy. Duke Lavery, Anna Devane's beloved husband, died dramatically right in her arms on March 19, 1990. The emotional vacuum in Port Charles was enormous.
So they killed off a beloved character, creating this huge emotional wound, and then almost immediately replaced the void with a mysterious, handsome stranger who needed Anna's protection.
The transition was immediate and dramatic. On March 23, 1990, just 4 days after Duke's death, Robert and Anna are traveling on a plane.
Okay.
And it gets caught in a strange storm. And that storm was described as having a spectacular laser display, which coincided exactly with the appearance of this mysterious man, Casey the alien, in the Lavery's backyard.
And here's where it gets really interesting from a production perspective.
Oh, get this.
The actor who played the alien, Bradley Lockerman, had originally auditioned for the role of Jonathan Paget, who was supposed to be a double for the supposedly deceased Duke Lavery.
They were already flirting with the doppelganger idea.
Totally.
And when the Paget plot went a different way, the producers created the character of Casey Rogers specifically for Lockerman. It tells you that the writers were committed to having that actor, which likely influenced the bizarre direction they took.
They had the talent and just decided, let's give him a crystal quest.
Let's make him an alien.
Okay, let's talk about the actual plot, which ran for a mercifully short time, just a couple of months. The alien arrives, needing a name and a mission.
Right. He was a being from the star Lumina, and he needed human cover. He spotted a file Anna Devane had on her desk for a man named Casey Roger S., and that's how he adopted the identity Casey Rogers.
Just blending in as best he could with his, otherworldly good looks.
And his mission was classic sci-fi, echoing movies of the era. He was searching for the missing piece of the Lumina crystal.
Which was the power source he needed to get home.
Yeah.
But the real emotional core of the entire short-lived plot wasn't the crystal itself. It was his relationship with Anna's young daughter, Robin Scorpio.
That dynamic absolutely anchored the plot. Robin, a young girl, maybe 12 years old, She became his human advocate.
She hid him.
She hid him, sometimes in her bedroom, sometimes in the garage, and tried to help him navigate earthly life and language. It was a clear, dramatic homage to the 1982 blockbuster E.T.
It was incredibly sweet, but also supremely strange, especially considering their age difference. Robin took her role as this intercultural guide very seriously.
Which led to the infamous sex book incident.
Oh, right.
Robin was determined to help him learn, so Casey went to the library and stole a book about human anatomy and sex. Anna later stumbles upon this book.
And has to have a very awkward conversation.
An incredibly awkward, unexpected conversation with her daughter about what the alien was researching. I mean, only on a soap opera would an extraterrestrial plot lead to a sudden, uncomfortable talk about human reproduction.
The whole story leans so heavily into 80s sci-fi tropes. They explicitly referenced the movie Starman from 1984.
They did. They used specific music cues and the spectacular laser displays you mentioned to visually reinforce his alien nature, especially since Casey was portrayed as a conventionally handsome man, not a creature.
He was essentially an alien who looked like a handsome soap star.
Exactly. And while he was on his bizarre Crystalline quest, the extraterrestrial technology had very real, localized effects that impacted the central setting of the show.
You're talking about the General Hospital subplot.
Yeah, the presence of the alien tech was actually draining power from the hospital, creating a literal energy crisis. So while super spies were fighting an alien for a crystal, the doctors were scrambling to keep patients on life support.
You always maintain the high stakes.
Always, but the audience reaction was definitely polarized. Some fans appreciated the sheer creative bravery of going full sci-fi.
While others found the concept of a grown man, even an innocent alien, hiding out in a little girl's bedroom to be, too far-fetched and uncomfortable.
Especially compared to other established fantasy elements like ghosts or vampires.
I can see that. A vampire is established gothic fiction.
Yeah.
An alien is just a budget grown-up E.T.
Yeah.
But here is the critical pivot. This is the moment that justifies why we're even spending time on this supremely stupid plot point.
It remains absolutely foundational to Port Charles mythology 35 years later.
Yes.
What's fascinating is that the Crystalline Conspiracy was the insane and delirious origin story for the show's most crucial elements. The most enduring legacy wasn't the alien, it was the first introduction of the legendary villain, Cesar Faison.
That narrative thread is incredible. So Faison first appeared under an alias P.K. Sinclair, and he was revealed to be the antagonist hoarding the Lumina crystal. He wasn't after the crystal for space travel, though. He was after its immense earthly power.
And this arc didn't just introduce Faison, it created his entire identity and motivation. The Crystal Quest instantly cemented his lifelong obsessive link to Anna Devane.
So he became her arch nemesis because she was trying to protect the alien and the crystal he sought.
Exactly. The decades-long conflict between Anna and Faison, which is so central to the show's history, started with the search for alien energy.
So the alien, by simply existing and possessing this object, unleashed a deeply human, deeply pathological obsession. He paved the way for the most significant antagonist in the history of the show.
And he changed the geography of Port Charles forever. The Crystal Quest led the protagonists directly to Spoon Island, which is where Faison decided to hoard his prize.
And Faison's presence there solidified Wyndemere Castle's role. For listeners who might not know, Wyndemere is the massive, ancestral Gothic castle on Spoon Island.
The traditional headquarters for the villainous Cassadine family. Wyndemere instantly went from being just a historical location to being the fortress for international villains in Port Charles. This arc was the structural foundation that launched decades of high-stakes Gothic storylines involving the Cassadines.
The alien essentially mapped the location for all future global evil in the city.
He really did.
And here's the most soap opera twist of all. To demonstrate how quickly they pivot and salvage popular talent, Casey successfully recovered the crystal and returned to Lumina on May 20th, 1990.
But that actor was not allowed to leave the payroll.
Not at all.
Anna saw a reporter on the news just 8 days later who looked identical to Casey, his human doppelganger, Shep Casey.
Wow.
So the show immediately established the crucial double trope, maintaining the actor and his human twin persona, essentially replacing the alien with a non-alien immediately.
It's ridiculous but powerful historical convergence. What started as this goofy, whimsical sci-fi story was the critical catalyst that launched the Cesar Faison and Devane conflict and solidified Wyndemere as the ultimate villain lair.
That's a massive narrative dividend from a short, weird plot.
Which brings us full circle to the present day, 2025, where the show is demonstrating a remarkable act of meta-narrative by pulling this forgotten arc back into the spotlight.
This is proof that nothing is truly forgotten in Port Charles history.
The recent storyline features Anna Devane encountering a book, a physical artifact titled The Crystalline Conspiracy.
And this book isn't just a reminder, it's a psychological trigger for her, featuring the very pointed inscription, "For my muse, C."
Single letter.
That's it. And this move is designed purely to unsettle Anna. The ambiguity of who C refers to has immediately brought the show's entire past mythology crashing back into the present storyline.
It forces us to reevaluate the events of 1990. So let's break down the 3 theories our sources have identified. First, the most obvious. C stands for Casey Rogers.
The alien. The original inspiration and romantic connection, the muse of the events. Anna protected him. He was the source of the crystal conflict.
But then you have the more insidious and honestly more likely theory.
C stands for Cesar Faison.
Cesar has viewed Anna as his lifelong muse and obsession since he first encountered her during that 1990 crystal hunt. If Faison is behind the book, it's the ultimate taunt.
It's proving he remembers every detail of her past vulnerability and how their lives became intrinsically linked.
And finally, there's the deep-cut theory that only longtime viewers would appreciate.
No.
C could stand for Shep Casey.
The human reporter, the doppelganger.
Right. Maybe he authored the book, documenting his investigation into his alien double and the conspiracy the alien left behind.
Regardless of which C is correct, the show is demonstrating incredible narrative density. They are using a 35-year-old plot point as the key to unlock current conflict.
They don't have to retell the alien story, they just have to reference the book, and all that history, all that trauma immediately rushes back.
And the fan theories are trying to ground this old fantasy plot in modern terms. We're seeing theories suggesting that the crystalline element isn't about alien magic,
but a subtle reference to rare mineral elements sought by current antagonists in a modern corporate espionage framework. Right. The fantasy of 1990 is being reframed as the geopolitical thriller of 2025.
It just shows that in the world of soap operas, nothing is disposable. It just gains new layers of meaning and application over time. The writers understand that the history is the resource.
That is the core insight we wanted to deliver today. The most unbelievable, high-concept soap opera stories, the ones critics laugh at, they aren't forgotten or retconned away.
No, they become the strange foundational mythology that continues to power future, seemingly more grounded conflicts.
The alien didn't destroy Port Charles. He simply paved the way for the creation of Faison and the consolidation of Wyndemere as the ultimate villainous hub.
And let's dwell on that human element one last time. The show replaced the alien, Casey, with his human doppelganger, Shep Casey, immediately upon the alien's return to Lumina.
Which creates a fascinating philosophical loop for Anna and for us, the audience. The persistence of this story, the return of the Crystalline Conspiracy, this book, this muse, it raises an important question.
Does the power of this enduring storyline mean the fantasy was never really about the alien and his crystal at all, but rather about the powerful, deeply human obsession and villainy it accidentally unleashed upon Port Charles? It asks us to consider what happens when a brief moment of fantasy leaves a permanent legacy of human darkness behind.